Hello and welcome to the Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 edition of the SANS and Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and I'm recording from Jacksonville, Florida. Yi Jing published a diary about the resurgence of cryptocurrency mining malware targeting PHP servers. Attackers are exploiting vulnerabilities such as CVE 2024-4577. That's the misconfiguration in PGP CGI installations. Once they gain access, they deploy a dropper, dr0p.exe, that deploys additional payloads, including pkt.exe and PacketCrypt.exe. These malware pieces are then being used to mine the PacketCrypt Classic cryptocurrency. Not a cryptocurrency I've heard about, but, well, they always come up with something new when it comes to cryptocurrencies. This PHP CGI vulnerability is somewhat specific to Windows, which is why you have these EXEs being uploaded here. The simplest way, of course, to detect miners like this is typically CPU load spikes. Patch management, really important here. This is not super recent vulnerability, a vulnerability that has been exploited for a while now. And the vulnerability is also being exploited by other malicious tools and such. So when you're doing incident response in this particular case, be careful to dig a little bit deeper. There are probably others that have exploited the same vulnerability. And these cryptocurrency miners, they sometimes tend to be sort of a little bit canaries that are just easy to spot that someone exploited this vulnerability. And SonicWall disclosed that they had vulnerability in their secure mobile access SMA 100 series devices that has already been under active exploitation. On Tuesday, they did release a patch for this vulnerability, but given that it's already being exploited, so this is one of those 30-day vulnerabilities, definitely make sure that you apply patches quickly. Yet another one of these Asel VPN device vulnerabilities. Well, not sure what to tell you about preventing exploitation here in general, but definitely the more network segmentation you can do, the better. So try to limit what IP addresses can access a particular Asel VPN gateway. Multi-factor authentication and things like this don't really do much good if authentication can simply be bypassed with vulnerability like this. And then we have another sort of vulnerability in more professional device, actually two vulnerability. This one affects Moxa devices. They make these cellular routers that are often used in industrial networks. There are two vulnerabilities here. The first one, very straightforward, a hard-coded credential vulnerability. That way you can actually get access to an authenticated user. And then the second vulnerability allows authenticated users to execute arbitrary code. Firmware updates is your number one defense here. And yes, updates are available. Default credentials, well, you shouldn't use default credentials. But of course, in this case, well, you weren't aware that these default credentials actually existed. And talking about various devices, the White House has announced the launch of the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark, a cybersecurity labeling program for internet-connected devices. It's administered by the Federal Communications Commission, FCC. This program aims to help consumers identify devices that meet established security standards, promoting better security practices among manufacturers, and of course, inform purchasing decisions. I kind of like this idea and hope it works out. Not that familiar with all the exact details here. Don't discard these ideas because, well, they're often only looking for the most simple kind of issues like default passwords and such. But, well, it's one of those things where it's better than nothing. And right now, consumers, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're not probably your average consumer. So consumers really have a hard time figuring out, what's secure, what's not secure. And a simple label program like this is hopefully raising the bar a little bit and also providing an incentive for manufacturers to look a little bit closer at the security posture of their systems. And at the Chaos Communication Congress conference in Germany, an interesting exploit was demonstrated against Windows 11 that allowed bypassing the BitLocker encryption. Now, it's using an older bug. The bug itself is 2 years old, but it basically demonstrated a neat way how this bug can actually be exploited. Apparently, it hasn't been completely patched yet. The trick here is that essentially the attacker gains access to a system that was suddenly shut down. So, maybe a system that you just folded up, put away quickly in a hotel room or such, and is able to gain access to the BitLocker key that's still remnant in memory. Interesting vulnerability, and even more interesting to actually see what looks like a practical exploit here. There is a video demo also of the exploit. The video is only in German, if I remember correctly. I'll try to link to it, and hopefully it will still make some sense to you. Well, anyway, this is it for today. Thanks for listening, and talk to you again tomorrow.